Welcome to Broomfield, Colorado, where we are here for the Pro Elite Championship. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald alongside Ian Toner in the men's final, where Denver Johnny Bravo is taking on Pittsburgh Temper. And Temper came in the 16 seed of the tournament, and now they find themselves in the finals. What do you make of that, Ian?
Well, we've seen some crazy results across all divisions all weekend long, but to be honest with you, I'm not terribly surprised by Temper's strong early season performance because there are so many players on that roster that have years of college experience together at the Pittsburgh and Saba Nur program. Now that they're coming into the club game, they're finding that chemistry, finding that cohesion, and it's reaping benefits, whereas other club teams may need some more time to familiarize themselves with each other, coming together from different programs and backgrounds. Really strong start to the season for Temper.
And another strong start to the season is Johnny Bravo in the finals that I don't know if many people thought that they would be here as well.
Yeah, they've experienced an incredible amount of turnover. A lot of players departing from the 2017 squad. And all of that being said, they're still going to stick to the same offensive systems and principles that experienced coach and Callahan winner Jim Shetler has put into place. He's got a very distinct offense that he believes can guide his team to the championship, and it's a new cast of characters just assuming those roles and making that system come to life.
You, of course, being part of that system at one point.
At one point, have to say it's a little bittersweet to see these guys out here. I want to see them do well, want to stay impartial up here in the booth, and wish I could be out there on the field with them, but we're getting things started here with Josh Crane catching the centering pass.
And he finds Ben Laurie with kind of a blady upfield look. Laurie dishes to Salzman up the line, and you could just see fingertips out of Laurie's reach.
And that's a fine look there. That initial throw to get things started, Crane with that blade to Laurie. Shetler will run drills at practice where you've got boxes that are 20 yards away from the thrower and a diagonal corner, and you've got to hit the throw in that box just to simulate exactly that situation. So very practical elements of practice coming to life here in the game.
So now Temper is on offense. They, of course, went to double game point in the men's semis versus Seattle Sockeye to get here.
Yeah, Sockeye, one of the historically stronger and bigger name programs, fighting off some disappointment from last year's performance at the club championships in Sarasota, where they went 0-3 on their first day, having entered the tournament as a potential championship contender, but they've retooled their roster a bit, and I think a semifinals finish is a strong showing to getting things back on the right track for the Fish.
So Temper back in play. That handler swing loses yards but maintains possession. And just a laser of a pass. Laurie picking up for Denver.
Great patience there. Conker was alone deep, but the defense was struggling to recover as Conker uncorks a hammer.
And that hammer to Stanley Peterson is good. And that puts Bravo on the board to start the game.
Easy finish there for Henry Conker. Whenever Johnny Bravo warms up, you know, a lot of teams will run the 4 lines drill. You've got your handler cut to start, your in cut, then your out cut. And one wrinkle that Jim Shetler throws into his 4 lines drill is a kind of diagonal hammer cut. And that's something that everyone practices at the start of every game, at the start of every practice. So a pattern like that feels natural in game speed, and we saw Conker executing well, finding Peterson in the end zone.
So with the hammer to start the game, Denver is up 1. Denver beat High Five in the finals pretty decisively in the semis. Alan Villanueva will pull Of course, he played in the D3 college championships for the Air Force Academy.
Yeah, and Villanueva, representative of a new generation of talent coming into the Johnny Bravo pipeline and roster. You know, historically, Bravo's ties have been strongest with Colorado University Mama Bird program up in Boulder. But I think the leadership did a great job reaching out to other programs around the state this year, getting interested talent from Colorado State, Air Force, Colorado College, programs that may not have had strong representation on the Bravo roster before, but building those relationships and strengthening that pipeline throughout the state is only going to do good things for the program in the long run.
So Pitt started in a side stack, working through. Now that high point grab from Jimmy Toll, Pitt converts right away.
Well, Pat Earls is a sharpshooter like no other. He's got a lefty flick cannon. Everyone knows about it. And we saw Quinn Feiner closing in there, but Earls' throw on the money.
Toll is right there, so he will score Pitt's first point of the game. Be sure and let us know where you're tuning in from. We have a Bravo fan tuning in from Fairbanks, Alaska. David Warner. And someone else tuning in from Kodiak, Alaska. Just from all over the place. And Pitt, of course, the University of Pittsburgh doing well in the college championships this year. How does that kind of momentum then really help carry into the club season?
Well, I think it's the chemistry and familiarity that basically half this roster or more has with each other, right? You know, they've essentially got 6 months of practice that they've had from January that can translate right over to the club scene. And as you mentioned, Pittsburgh surprising a lot of people earlier on, taking down Carleton, one of the heavy title favorites in the national semifinal.
And now Pitt with the opportunity to get a break here, kind of uncharacteristic drop from Bravo. But two Bravo defenders, looked like Peterson and Laurie were both going for that under throw.
Yeah, great work by Ben Laurie to recover. We get another look. That's an upline cut into the force, so this is going to be a tough break throw. As we saw Laurie bid, and then Peterson came in behind, wasn't sure that Laurie was going to bid. Looked like an arm or elbow to the head. I think at first glance our concern is a concussion, but it's hard to say from afar.
So officials' timeout taken to assess his injury. Thankfully, someone is there with an umbrella to create some shade. It's 93 degrees currently.
Yeah, no forgiving conditions here in Colorado at the moment.
So I think Ben will kind of scoot off to the side.
And as much as everyone on Bravo will say that their offense is a system more than anything else, you know, losing Ben Laurie would be a huge loss for this O-line, at least finishing out this game.
So a blue card has been assessed by the observers. What does that mean, Ian?
I'd be interested. I'm unclear on who the blue card was given to. It's hard to tell from here. We don't have the observers mic'd up. I'm not sure if it was issued to Peterson for a dangerous play. Love to get some more clarification on that as Delamere shoots deep.
So Peterson is in the end zone, defender closing in, but he will score for Bravo. He has both of Bravo's points so far, as it's now 2-1 Bravo.
Calvin Delamere a player who's had a lot of experience with multiple men's teams in Colorado. Played with Bravo before, most recently played with Inception last year. Was battling with double wide in that South Central men's regional game to go to the national championships.
That was a great game.
And then double wide, surprising everyone at the national championships, upsetting Bravo in the pre-quarterfinals and making a run all the way to the finals.
And securing a world's berth as well.
And they're another one of those teams, we were talking about this in the Molly Brown game, that are using this weekend as a tune-up to get the personnel familiar with each other in actual game settings, experiment with their sets and play calls, and bring new additions like Kurt Gibson into the fold. And their results may not have been top-notch, but I think this is more about feeling things out for the World Club Championships and later in the club season.
A mini camp, essentially, for these teams. But Villanueva to pull again for Denver. Lots of hang time allows the defense to get down on the pole. Over the top. Temper in this horizontal stack. Wish around to Edmonds. And there's the bid. That's a turnover.
Sandy Brown, another Colorado College product who came up through the ranks after playing on Inception before.
And another one of those hammer cuts right to the front cone on the far side, but incomplete.
Hodling never one to be afraid to pull the trigger. Kevin Johnson was there. I think it was just a little bit out of his reach.
So high release backhand, a little bit too high. Gives Bravo another opportunity for the break. And that blade is not good. Another opportunity for Temper.
After some cleaner points earlier on, we're seeing a little more gunslinger mentality out on the field from at least the Bravo D-line.
So Earls with the disc, swings over. Kind of continuing to get some yards underneath. Edmonds finding Wish. And it was kind of a side stack.
Yeah, a lot of the Pittsburgh receivers trying to stick to this near sideline here where our camera is, opening up isolation on that far sideline. And
now there's that huck into the end zone. It's hanging and hangs long enough for Edmonds to catch it, and Temper will hold.
And I think the Bravo D-line is kicking themselves after that one. They had a couple golden opportunities to punch in some breaks. A little trigger happy, you might say, with some of those end zone shots after turnovers. And credit to the Pittsburgh offense for battling through and taking that clean shot to the end zone late in the point.
That huck just floated so well for Edmonds to close on it while staying in bounds. So we are tied at 2 apiece. And we have some of our fellow WUCC commentary teammates joining in on the live stream.
Great to hear everybody tuning in with us, and also great to see Ben Laurie back out on the line for Johnny Bravo after that scary collision.
So he will be back out there to play offense with Matt Jackson and Stanley Peterson.
Laurie's mother is actually a nurse, and she's administered a concussion test or two before in her day, and I'm sure she had some medical staff on hand to help her check on him as well.
In fact, I do see her very close to the medical tent right now as Lori catches that hammer, centers to Peterson. They'll keep it on the force side. Get it over to Jackson. To Lori. So much spacing from this Bravo offense. Inside out backhand to Jackson. Jackson, of course, University of Arkansas standout who moved to Denver last year. Looking for a change. Also to play some great Frisbee.
I'm sure that had something to do with it too.
His postgraduate studies had ended at Arkansas. And another upside down shot. That falls quickly.
Yeah, and the wind is becoming a little bit more of a factor than it was earlier in the day. That was a downwind shot that probably got pushed a little further than Conker wanted.
So one-on-one, Ing is the receiver, and he just snags that. And that is a temper break.
Well, a great deep shot here from Sam Van Dusen. Another one of those throwers with a lefty cannon on this Pittsburgh Temper roster. Van Dusen finding Ing, who was on an absolute tear at the college championships in Milwaukee a few weeks ago. Just a challenging, deep threat, an imposing receiver, and Bravo's Denny Beaches did a good job trying to body out as much as he could, but sometimes there's very little you can do about the size mismatch, and Beaches is definitely giving up some inches.
Ing last year in the club division playing mixed for Philadelphia Amp, huge part of their success at the club championships. Playing Pittsburgh Temper now, obviously, this year.
But I believe he's going to be sticking with Amp for the World Ultimate Club Championships.
I think you're correct, yes.
So that'll be a great resource for their offensive and defensive lines in Cincinnati.
So Denver O-line back out on the field. Jackson with the disc. Temper forcing backhand to that far sideline. Instead, Denver finding those inside out backhands. Now Jackson in the end zone. And that's a quick hold from Bravo.
And Josh Crane doesn't necessarily attract a lot of headlines, but he is one of the main cogs and one of the calmest presences on this Bravo offense. He's deceptively quick in the handler set, and 9 times out of 10, he's going to make the right decision. He'll only pull the trigger deep when he knows he can complete it, and great job breaking the mark on that deep shot there. And also credit to Temper for that defensive adjustment on that point. We saw them forcing flick the first couple points of this game, and that opened up a lot of those hammer looks that Bravo was obviously very comfortable throwing, even those outside-in flick blades, but switching to backhand kind of changes the calculus. You got to throw backhand blades. You got to throw scoobers instead of hammers, and defenders just want to keep forcing the offense to think, try different options, go to different options. So we'll be interested to see how the Temper defense continues to adjust throughout the rest of this game.
And Matt Jackson as well, handling for Bravo, but very, very fast receiver also.
Yeah, it's interesting that he sometimes starts in the handler set, because I think a lot of people know him in the game as a receiver, but he's such a steady presence, and that's the kind of presence that you need on this unit. Players like him and Crane are going to be the rocks that stabilize this offensive unit moving forward.
A little bit of a bounce on the pull. Temper right outside of the goal line, has to swing inside. That is low, but caught. Van Dusen. Edmonds back over to Toll. And Toll with that backhand look, but maybe some miscommunication from receivers.
Yeah, not sure which receiver he thought was going to be continuing deep, but Bravo's got 70 yards for a break chance. Looks like the Temper defense is going to be relatively honest here with limited switching, maybe one cap off the top after the turnover.
And great around to Bubernock. Sliding catch is Hodling. And through coverage, Rawls catches it, but not sure if maybe he was hobbling a little, but checks back in.
Yeah, it looked like he had to take an awkward step to avoid landing on the bidding Max Thorne.
So swinging off the sideline, and that is very tall, big bid from Rawls, but did not seem like that was going to stay in bounds.
Yeah, I think the blade option was there. Rawls did have that separation on the break side, but the execution just wasn't there, and I'm not sure if the wind had anything to do with that, pushing it a little further than he would have liked.
So Earls will take it from the front cone. You can see kind of a classic diamond cut for that initiation. Temper swinging to the far sideline, gaining yards, Hannah. And Flickhuck, it's floating, but right out of the sky, there's Earls. That's a Temper score.
Well, once again, Temper flexing its deep muscle, never afraid to rip the long ball, and Matt Hanna, who was a solid contributor for Unsapener on their run to the finals at the college championships, puts that up on a platter. Bravo defender had a shot at it, but Earls, an experienced receiver, attacked just at the right moment.
So Temper is up 1. They have 4, Bravo 3. This is a game to 13. The pre-quarters crossover round, the last round of Saturday, was cut short due to lightning. So that had to be completed this morning, which pushed rounds back. Being mindful of flights and all of that, the games are now to 13 rather than 15. That kind of predictable Colorado afternoon thunderstorm.
Yeah, as they say in Colorado, give it 20 minutes, the weather will shift. You can always count on a beautiful day and some afternoon thunderstorms rolling in.
So lots of float from that pole. Jackson catches it, gets it to Crane. Salzman swings to Jackson. That continue to Delamere. And Peterson with the disc over to Salzman. Resetting to Jackson. Quick dish to Crane. And there's that blade, and Ing makes a bid for it, but Beaches is there.
Probably a little riskier than Coach Jim Shetler would have liked, but again, that point we just saw the Bravo offense constantly changing the point of attack, some upside down throws to gain yardage both laterally and horizontally. Those resets coming in at the front of the stack, not keeping a dump out and clogging that backfield space. That's just iconic Bravo offense. And obviously different teams have different strategies, but that's what Jim Shetler's going to preach and instill into his players.
So we're tied at 4s. And Temper is up 1 break. the mixed final after this, which is a battle of the Colorado teams, Shame versus Love Tractor. Both of those teams with players who have played on Bravo in the past.
Yeah, Nick Lance and Joe Anderson and Jake Juzak, all Bravo alums shooting up for Shame. Ryan Morgan as well. And at Love Tractor, Jack McShane, captain of the 2014 Bravo National Championship squad that a number of us were a part of. Jesse Ream, also a former Bravo captain on that team. So a great all-Colorado battle coming your way after this final wraps up.
So that pull lands in and rolls out. However, there's an offsides call on the field. Ian, what is the rules for offsides for those who might not know?
So as the observers signal time, the offense needs to have all 7 players have to have their foot on the line as their offensive set time expires, and defenders who are on the pulling squad can't cross their own goal line before the pull goes up. So anyone who violates that with an offensive player who doesn't have his foot on the line, or defender who jumps the gun and crosses the line too early, is going to trigger an offside violation.
So another pull, this time lands in and stays in. Temper on offense. And Edmonds with that big fake instead will reset to best. And that's floating.
Elliot Erickson with one of his patented huge bids.
And one-on-one right out of the air. There's Toll. That's his second goal of the game.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Temper's deep game is clicking right now. Sure, there have been 1 or 2 shots that haven't worked, but their receivers, when they have chances to make plays, are making plays. And if I'm a thrower, I want to reward that. I want to keep feeding them. By the same coin, Bravo defense, you had 2 really good looks at blocks on that throw. Elliot Erickson tipping that reset to Edmonds. And that deep shot, Villanueva so close to getting a hand on it. There's success that you could draw on this point for both sides.
And the additional passes gives a little bit more time for the Denver O-line to rest as they get back out on the field. But really both sides, their O-lines having to do a lot of work, as these points have gone fairly quickly so far. So there's the pull. Jackson will catch over to Crane. That side stack had Laurie isolated, but instead, here's Peterson inside to Laurie. And keeps it inbounds, Crane. There's Jackson and puts that out for Peterson.
You saw the wind rearing its head there. Jackson trying to force that backhand upwind, and the disc starting to wobble and blade when he would absolutely like that to be a flat shot into Peterson's gut out into space.
So Peterson going for it with 2 hands. However, Ronnie Dropshow is there.
Yeah, Marcus Rainide Dropshow, an experienced player, a former leader of Pittsburgh and Saba Noor. As we see some discussion after the reset there.
So, with that discussion, Ben Laurie had the disc, and it is ruled a Bravo score. So we are tied at 5s. Half is at 7, game to 13. This, of course, the beginning of the Triple Crown Tour, part of the USA Ultimate club scene. So there are different divisions based on how teams finish the series, and that is Pro, Elite, and then Select. And this tournament is the Pro Elite, so that qualify based on how you finished at the club championships. There are some teams who were select finishers as well, but typically that means that they lost in the game to go to nationals, and that still qualifies you to play. This tournament, though, even before the Triple Crown Tour, as formerly known as Colorado Cup, has always drawn very strong players because the Colorado Ultimate scene is so strong. So teams from all over the country know that they will have really great competition. It helps their rankings to play out-of-region teams, and it's a really nice way to start the club season, get that tune-up going.
Yeah, and as someone who follows all 3 divisions, you're always interested to see which teams are coming into late season form earlier in the season. A 16 seed like Temper making the finals is a great harbinger for earning a bid or being a threat at the national championships. A lot can happen between now and then, but lots of storylines to follow coming out of this early season tournament.
So 3 handlers back for Temper. They find a hole upfield. We'll continue that. Toll. Resets to Wish. That inside flick to Earls. And shooting for the end zone. That's a goal. Jimmy Toll is just great hands into the right spot for Temper.
Yeah, he's abusing the deep space, abusing the break lanes. And those Pittsburgh throwers and shooters are making sure they know where he is whenever he's in striking distance of the end zone.
So Temper will go up by 1, and a timeout is called on the field. We hope you're enjoying the live stream. Let's see some of the other folks tuning in. I think someone was tuning in from Mexico earlier. Super exciting. And this part of USA Ultimate's coverage of the Triple Crown Tour, it will continue also at the US Open, which has an adult division as well as a youth division, which we had coverage last year, and is so fun for both sides. You have these elite players watching these high schoolers, and then you have high schoolers who are able to watch the best of the best.
Yeah, having competed at that tournament several times previously, it's just such a great atmosphere, so many levels of the game coming together, opportunities for knowledge sharing, mentorship. You've got players who are pulling double duty, competing with their club teams and also coaching the YCC teams of their hometown. It's just got a great feel to it, and one of the best events USA Ultimate runs.
So that will come up in early August, part of the Triple Crown Tour. And then this is also the 50th anniversary of Ultimate, with that celebration happening in October in San Diego.
Yeah, Club Nationals is going to have some extra spice to it this year.
So Denver Johnny Bravo on offense. See if that pole will stay in bounds. It won't. They'll take it at the brick mark. So Crane is walking it up. Bravo in the vertical stack. Ben Laurie last back. And actually, they're in a vertical stack, but Peterson is kind of isolated on that break side, kind of staying in the deep space as Bravo swings around from the handler set. Salzman over to Beaches. Good fake from Crane to get open. That shoulder shimmy, so effective. Now Crane shooting for the end zone. Beaches is there. That's his second goal of the game.
Well, Crane and Beaches teammates for several years on Mama Bird and Bravo, and they actually work together at the same kombucha plant, Upstart Kombucha.
I love kombucha.
They were once a sponsor of the Colorado Mama Bird athletic gear. So those two know where they're going to be at all times. Surprised they're not sick of each other once they step out on the field.
This is the true test, right? I think that's one amazing element of Club Ultimate as well, is that you have players that play together for years and years and years, and sometimes that brings out the best and not quite the best in people, but that familiarity is pretty unparalleled.
Now, I remember coming to practices, and we all couldn't wait to hear what had gone wrong at the kombucha plant the next Tuesday night or Saturday morning.
What happened to the mother?
Just motley crew running that bottling operation.
That's such a Colorado thing, too, isn't
It
it?
absolutely is.
I am all for it, though. I am an enormous kombucha fan. So we're tied at 6s. Whoever scores here will take it to half.
Bravo stacking this line with a lot of traditionally O-line personnel crossing over here. Conker, Laurie, Peterson, Beaches.
Again, forcing towards that far sideline. Todd Wolma tries for that block, but Temper stays with it. And Tolles finds Hannah, and they will take it to half.
Somebody's got to keep an eye on Jimmy Toll. The impact he's had so far in this first half. You know, when you look at this roster on paper and the accolades and experience that some of the other guys on this roster do, like Ing or DiGirolamo or Thorne, Toll's one of those guys that probably sneaks under the radar, but now that this game is on film for everyone to watch and study, I'd be interested to see what kind of matchups he draws at future tournaments.
He is firmly on the radar with 3 of Temper's 7 goals. We are going to take a break, but when we return, we will have the second half of action here in the men's final at the Pro Elite Championship, where Temper out of Pittsburgh leads Johnny Bravo out of Denver. 7-6. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald with Ian Toner. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Broomfield, Colorado. We are at halftime of the men's final at the Pro Elite Championship. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald with Ian Toner, where Pittsburgh Temper is up by 1 on Denver Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, the 16 seed taking no prisoners, having no fear with any opponent they faced so far this weekend. They fought their way through the bracket, most recently besting Seattle Sockeye on double game point. And so far this game, their deep game has been absolutely clicking, really difficult to stop. And Jimmy Toll has been a handful for any defensive assignment, streaking in the deep lanes, catching breakside goals, a hot target, and someone that Bravo's going to have to key in on defensively.
And they do. So now Denver's first possession of the second half is a chance to break, but a pick called. Rawls with the disc. And some discussion. The disc will go back to Rawls. Bravo in that vertical stack. And some more commotion downfield. It's a sunny day here in the suburbs of Denver. This on a grass field, whereas this complex also has turf fields.
Far less forgiving in the 95-degree heat, with a lot of those rubber pellets absorbing even more heat underneath the players' cleats.
So disc will check back in at Rawls, third time. And inside flick to Brown. And that's a block from Edmonds. That inside flick just a little bit behind the receiver.
Yeah, and that's where Bravo wants to reset the disc as we see another bomb from Pat Earls.
So that time it's too wide. Jonah Wish was the intended receiver. He had steps on his defender, but that throw was not going to stay in.
That's the risk when you take some of those deep shots and are in love with your deep game. You're not going to complete 100% of them, and Earl's not afraid to be a shooter.
Hammer over the top, puts the disc on the other side of the field. Rawls, far sideline. That inside look is good. And right on the goal line, continues on. That's Quinn Feiner with the score.
Feiner coming to Bravo from the Colorado Mama Bird program, and typically taking more of an offensive role for Mama Bird, but we see him flexing his defensive muscle, earning the block at the start of this point, and then instrumental in the D-line offense's march down the field after they got the disc back a second time.
So that will tie it up as Bravo gets the first point of the game. An exciting path. Pittsburgh Temper, of course, the 16 seed coming into this tournament. I believe there are 16 teams per division. So what kind of confidence does that really give a team like this?
I think it shows everyone on the roster that they're capable of competing with some of the top teams in the division. Sets a really positive, inspiring, energizing tone for the rest of the season. And let's not forget the practicality of the rankings and bid implications, because Temper's in a region that's experiencing a lot of change. Truck Stop is, having a difficult weekend, experiencing a lot of turnover themselves. Not sure how many bids this region is going to earn by the end of the year, and a strong performance can do wonders for their region and for their confidence.
So that's the Huck look. 2-on-1, but out of the air is Matt Hanna, and Pitt answers back with a goal.
Well, not much has changed here for the Pittsburgh Temper offense, continuing to shoot deep at will. And Matt Hanna, strong work there, boxing out Jake Maripode, coming down with the grab in the end zone. And credit to the other Pittsburgh Temper receivers and downfield cutters on that point. They did a great job. I feel like I sound like a broken record, but keeping their spacing so that there were few opportunities for other defenders to peel off and make a play, and so that there were clear throwing lanes for the Huckers to shoot right down the middle of the field.
There are many reasons that a deep game works. It's not necessarily just an accurate thrower or an accurate receiver, but having other players isolate that deep space so that you're not drawing many other defenders as well.
Absolutely, and anyone who's seen the Nsaba Nur squad play offense knows that they like to isolate their athletes. So many of their pull plays originating back in the day with Alex Thorne and Tyler DiGirolamo and Marcus Reyni Dropchio getting open in space.
So that pull from Temper lands in, rolls out. So Crane will take it at the front of the end zone.
And the Temper defense there sniffed out the side stack flood, forcing Bravo to go to another option, but Conker sees Laurie here.
So Laurie now in the red zone. Quick dish to Crane, not in. And another quick dish. And that is a Johnny Bravo goal. Beaches with the score.
Kombucha boys at it again. Crane finding Beaches with that power cut on the goal line. And a nice job by the Bravo downfield cutters, not clogging that front corner as it can be tempting to do.
So we're tied at 8. Both teams answering fairly quickly. Bravo doing a good job adjusting when they kind of saw that their side stack play perhaps had broken down. So far, 1 break per team. But if you get broken and then you get a break, you're essentially back to even.
Right. And this is classic Jim Shetler, classic Johnny Bravo. We saw a shot there of Shetler tossing the football with the boys on the sideline, and I think that's all a part of his effort to keep everyone's calm, keep everyone cool and collected and invested in the game, not letting the moment overtake them.
So that pull, I think that pull also landed in and rolled out, just like the last one. We have felt the wind pick up a little bit since the first half.
Yeah, and for those viewers who aren't sitting here on the sidelines but are actually joining us on this broadcast, up here in the booth, it does feel like the wind is pretty definitively from right to left on your screen. So that means that the Temper offense is working upwind.
And high point grab is good. Hanna swinging all the way to the other side of the field. Kind of continuing on that far sideline. Forcing the defensive force is into the sideline to make that around swing that much more difficult. A forehand if you're right-handed.
Yeah, and I think they also want those soft inside breaks that are going up into the wind to pop up and not be clean, tight, direct shots that the offense might want them to be.
So Dis back in live. swinging around, continuing. And that was exactly what you were talking about, Ian.
And to be fair, Best did get his hand on that one.
So Bravo checking back in. Out of the vertical stack that is leaving a lot more open space in that break side. There's Wolma in the end zone, but no good.
Yeah, I think Wolma had a tiny bit of separation on the release. Hodling knows that throw could have been a little better. He's done a lot for this D-line so far this weekend. I know he's going to be hungry to get this disc back here.
So another opportunity for Temper. That's a shot that into the wind, it is hard to maintain that float. So that disc, the wind pushes that disc down. Underneath. We see Salzman going deep from the handler spot. Villanueva now inside to Wolma. Wolma shoots for the end zone. And that is a bid from Feiner, but.
And I think that deep shot caught everyone by surprise. Todd Wolma, not known for pulling out the flick cannon. I think Feiner was caught a little bit flat-footed when that one went up. He did have separation, but not the ideal look when your receiver's flat-footed.
Wolma, of course, on my Poultry Days team this year.
Well, was he a shooter on that team?
He was, but actually not. Probably not even as much a shooter on that team. He handled a little bit more than he is here, but more of a receiver downfield.
Yeah, his bread and butter is covering a top downfield cutter offensive threat for the opposing team, smothering them, making their lives difficult, making them push to their secondary options. And he got some great reps on Bravo's offensive unit last season. He was a great crossover player who could be trusted to make the right choice and not play outside the structure of the offense.
So a timeout called on the field after a few possessions going back and forth. Temper will be on offense. And if you're Temper, what do you do here to really kind of get that great initiation going out of the timeout?
Well, I think you want to call some kind of play that creates a clearly defined isolation for one receiver that doesn't allow another defender to pull off or peel off or make a play on. You want a big throwing lane to get that first gainer. And once you get that first gainer, the offense can reset, gain some composure, have some more breathing room as the disc comes in here.
So Temper coming out of the horizontal stack, swinging to the far side, now centered. That continuation.
And Max Thorne short-armed that one, coming up a little higher than he wanted.
But Elliot Erickson is there.
And you saw Max Thorne touch his chest after the release. He knows it didn't come out as cleanly as he wanted. The short arm caused it to hang a little more, a less direct shot, giving Bravo defenders a chance to swarm underneath.
So injury called from Alan Villanueva. So Ben Laurie will come in. Temper will take a substitution as well. Michael Ing entering. Laurie will pick up. Bravo in that vertical stack with Wolma kind of out on the break side to go deep immediately out of the two. Swing continuation. Laurie High release over the top to Erickson. And now, looking for the end zone. Will it stay in bounds? Observer says yes. Quinn Feiner, once again, with that goal.
And that's a huge morale boost after winning that marathon point. Couple tough turnovers for both squads. Eric Hodling earning redemption with this nice end zone shot to Feiner. And this is these shorter rounds, games to 13. We've had a marathon point right in the middle of the second half here. We could mark this as a turning point. Bravo inching back after Temper took half and now taking the lead at 9-8.
With that break, we are in the finals of the men's division. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald with Ian Toner. And Denver up 9 over Temper's 8 with that break score. And that football is still definitely part of the Bravo sideline and line calling.
It's a staple of the culture.
So, in fact,
I just had to get some quick touches real quick. You can't fault me for that.
We had a football toss into our broadcaster's booth. Ian with a bit of a grunt throwing it back.
Yeah, I had a case of the sunscreen hands when I was ready to throw that one back.
Sure. Temper, 3 handlers back, but in a vertical stack. Tight handler defense from Bravo, working it up this break side. You can see that straight up mark probably hopefully preventing a huck look. It still goes up. And it hangs. We have a layout. And Matt Bubernock gets the score. And that was actually Alexander Thomas for Temper who got the score.
Well, once again, we see the Temper deep game firing on all cylinders. Thomas flexing his speed. A couple instances earlier in that point where some Bravo deep defenders had tried to institute some downfield switches to protect the deep space earlier in the stall count, but Thomas using his speed to get separation. Tough to stop, especially when this Temper deep game has been so in sync all game long.
So we are back tied at 9s, a game to 13. Try and keep an eye on cap for you, should it come to that. Still around 20 minutes from that.
Reminder that coming up after this game, we've got the mixed division final, an all Colorado matchup. Fort Collins-based team Shame taking on Boulder-based Love Tractor.
Matt Jackson, who formerly played in the mixed division with RUA out of Arkansas. He is one of the handlers for Bravo. Now Peterson with the disc. Gains yards upfield, Conquer. Resets, Beaches. And hammer from Crane, but that is blocked. Max Shepard says, not right now, you're not.
One of the few risky decisions we've seen Josh Crane make so far this game. talk about turning points earlier, Temper now with a chance to regain the lead.
So near sideline, looking for that handler reset. Nice around. Jasper Tom over to Andrew Cole. Tom up the line. Does that continue? Far sideline, and Stanley Peterson with the hand block.
Yeah, that throw was a little bit telegraphed. Took a second to stand out there, reach, and Peterson fired up after making the play.
And Peterson on the O-line now for Bravo, however, is quite the defensive formidable force as we have another layout D, this time from Jasper Tom.
Yeah.
Immediate huck, one-on-one, right away is Van Dusen. He resets to Shams. Shams trying to point for that far corner. High release to Tom, and it hung just enough for Matt Jackson to get a hand on that.
This is a roller coaster of a point. Multiple end zone shots, end zone layout blocks. And I was just about to say that now's the time to call a timeout. You know, again, just to insert another anecdote from Bravo practices, there are times when Shetler will let the teams play with unlimited timeouts just to reward that thinking and that decision to take a second to recollect yourself. And obviously, you're not going to have unlimited timeouts in game settings, but there are times when you see teams finish halves without using their timeouts, and those are missed opportunities to regroup and reset your structure.
I'm almost surprised that Temper didn't call a timeout.
On the goal line there, you know, there are many conflicting theories with players being all alone in the red zone or on the doorstep and calling timeouts in those situations, but at this point, Temper's just going to have to dig deep and find a way to get the disc back.
So Bravo will be on offense. Jackson with the disc. Crucial point here in the second half, tied at 9s. And both teams having to make defensive plays. At this level, you can't necessarily wait for the offense to make a mistake. You have to go out and get it. And you can see this Bravo vertical stack that keeps one person kind of in that break side for the activation. And it was a layout bid that was caught by Conquer.
Yeah, Conquer's got a big body. I think he felt like he was undercut, but from our perspective and at that speed, it looked like he might have had a shot at the disc while not making a dangerous play. Maybe we can get a look at the replay after this point ends.
Conquer checks back in. Salzman. Lots of layouts from Temper. Resetting to Salzman. Salzman also a standout college player.
Yeah, Salzman coming from Middlebury College.
And off, deflected off of the jersey of Beaches. Beaches catches it off of his own chest and then throws the score. How does that even happen, Ian?
So Jackson clearly looking to the break side, but that throw then redirects off Beaches, who is running through that slim throwing lane. And this time, Beaches' shot to the end zone in that front corner connects to find Calvin Delamere. Missed opportunities for both teams. Temper in the red zone on the doorstep. Bravo definitely could have used a lot less energy converting earlier in the point. And I believe, we need to double check the format here. I believe the loser of this game drops down and plays a third place placement game. So there's extra incentive to see.
You win
this game, get yourself out of the sun.
Go to lunch.
Go to lunch, get the points for the rankings.
And yes, there is. Actually, I think that there is a third place game that is already in progress. So both teams get out of the sun, but one gets to leave the Pro Elite Challenge champion. So far, that is Bravo up by 1. That pole bounces and rolls out.
Yeah, Earls had that disc go off his fingertips before it went out the back.
So that shot right away, more for field positioning's sake, is taken from Temper. Now Denver will check it in. Full length of the field, travel. I should say travel, really.
Yeah.
And looking for that activation, looks like kind of a bailout throw. 2-on-2, Erickson says, I've got it, but he does on the second attempt. Hodling.
And you heard the fire call from the sideline. Eric Hodling calling a timeout before the stall count got too high and he didn't have an option.
And Erickson calling for that bailout huck that went up, but then I think it floated a little bit farther than he was expecting.
Yeah, definitely not the way Quinn Finer drew it up when he picked up that disc. Certainly wanted some better initiation from the front of the stack.
When we talk about different players with different matchups, it's interesting. Salzman playing for Middlebury. His Middlebury team faced Allen Villanueva's team in the semifinals at the D3 College Championships on this very live stream.
This, the ultimate community is a small one once you get to those levels of the game. And Salzman also, hailing from Denver, Colorado, a product of East High School, where he was once coached by observer Jonathan Frito Monforti and Jesse Ream, former Bravo captain, who's suiting up for Love Tractor and about to play in the final.
It is a small, small community, but it's also really wonderful to see how the youth scene has grown so much, even over the past 5 years. The development of additional high school programs. And then you can see someone like Salzman, Middlebury, a formidable ultimate program throughout the years anyway. So checked back in, Rawls with the disc. Erickson. And that leading continue is good. Erickson so happy for that conversion.
Rawls was surveying his options here. Erickson attacking from the front of the stack.
So Bravo will now take a 2-point lead. They have 11, Temper 9. Still a lot of time from the cap. Again, these rounds were shortened from the original scheduling because of lightning yesterday afternoon, delay upon delay. So Villanueva with the disc to pull. He made Bravo out of the Air Force Academy, but wasn't sure because of the commitments that the Academy requires if he would be able to play. And in talking with the Air Force coaches, they said he has an advisor at the Academy who was super accommodating and said, you know what, this is an amazing opportunity for you. Let's work together. And at the time, they weren't sure because some things are just out of the control, but it's great to see him playing today.
Yeah, absolutely. And a new source of talent for the Bravo program going into the future.
So Temper on offense working through their handler core. Lots of switches from the Bravo defense.
Yeah, doing their best to work together as players peel out of the side stack and transition into this horizontal look.
Edmonds over to Hannah. And Hannah looking for the end zone. DiGirolamo 2-on-1. And he's got it. Score and the kick spike. That's a Temper goal.
Well, have to say I empathize with Villanueva. I've been on the receiving end of that before, having been skied mercilessly by DiGirolamo in the layout finals. But hey, there's a reason he's a top deep threat and accomplished receiver. Great size, great instincts, knows how to high point the disc.
When someone has a great vertical, even playing on beach, on the sand at layout, you know that they've got some springs in their legs.
I knew what was coming in the moment. There's only so much that bodying out can do when that throw is hanging up there on a platter.
So Temper gets it within one. Bravo still up 11-10 here in the finals. Temper taking it to double game point against Seattle Sockeye in an exciting match in this previous round. Now looking for that break to tie it up. And risky pull catch, but there is Matt Jackson using his neck to catch that pull. High release backhand, floats. And it's another deep look. Right there's Beaches. Resets to Crane. Continues to Beaches. That leads in. Critical hold for Johnny Bravo.
Yeah, the offense looked like it was in a bit of a jam when Jackson was by himself. But he reset with that high release backhand break off to the front corner of the end zone, and Conker with the deep shot to Beaches. I think Conker definitely would have liked to lead Beaches a little further. Beaches had to come back to the disc and body out the Temper defender, but after he came down with it, he and Crane just going to work and doing what they do best.
You love seeing that leading pass into the end zone for the score. So Temper will be on offense. If Bravo can get a break, that's game. Either way, we have the mixed final coming up after this. Shame versus Love Tractor. Battle of the South Central region and this, even the same section, same state. Rawls with the disc to pull for Bravo. See if Temper is looking, again, to really use their deep space. They're in the horizontal stack.
So Pittsburgh changing things offensively, not centering to Pat Earls. Jonah Wish is going to be doing the heavy lifting at center handler to start this point.
Near sideline. Toll underneath. And Hammer. Edmonds is looking for Hannah, and that is a goal.
Edmonds taking a page out of the Bravo playbook from the first half. Great vision, great execution, unfazed by the wind conditions. Leading his receiver to the front corner of the end zone, that break side where Wolma has absolutely no chance unless it hangs for a longer period of time. Just really well done by the Temper offense.
So Temper needs to get a break here to bring it to double game point. Right now, if Bravo can hold, that's game.
So taking a look at these respective lines, typical offensive personnel for Bravo, no surprises on this line. We've got Van Dusen, Ing, Leo Warren, Max Shepard, Tyler DiGirolamo. A lot of the usual D-line suspects here for the Temper squad.
There's the pull. Lots of angle. It bounces and rolls. Jackson's there, gets it to Crane. And Beaches was looking deep, but underneath, there's Lori through pressure. Hammer over the top. Crane's there. Fakes deep, underneath. There's Peterson, and Stanley Peterson with the game winner from his teammate Conker.
That nice inside slicing shot to Conker, and Conker finishing off with the great continuation to Peterson. Saw that several other rounds this weekend, and hey, I'll be the first to say I was a skeptic about how strong this Johnny Bravo squad could be this year after all the turnover that they experienced, but credit to the leadership, Jim Shetler's systems, and the young players for buying in. I know it's an early season tournament, but a great result for them defending their home turf, and the same can be said for Pittsburgh Temper coming in as the 16 seed, having not made nationals, needing to claw back into the national conversation, make some noise for their region, and for the sake of their own confidence and morale going forward. Lots of great takeaways for both teams as they move deeper into the club season.
And Temper, even though they lost by a small margin. And all of those things matter when it comes down to the rankings and the algorithm for USA Ultimate.
Absolutely. A 13-11 loss gets you significantly more credit than a 13-6 loss or even a 13-9 loss. And their deep game was a force to be reckoned with this weekend. So opponents at future tournaments are going to have to do well to game plan, figure out ways to limit their throwers, clog the lanes for their deep cutters, because they've got some athletes that are more than capable of making plays and did so carrying themselves to a second place finish this weekend.
So Denver Johnny Bravo will take the championship here in the men's final at the Pro Elite Challenge, defeating Pittsburgh Temper 13-11. Stick around, because coming up on the USA Ultimate Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, we will have the mixed division final of Shame out of Fort Collins versus Love Tractor out of Boulder. For Ian Toner, I'm Emmy Fitzgerald. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.